Good evening, ladies and germs. Welcome back. Episode 85 of the Change My Mind podcast, part of the hashtag DorkShared Gooniverse, along with Geeks Worldwide Radio and Midnight.fm. We are, of course, the People's Podcast. We are the prettiest podcast in the hashtag DorkShared Gooniverse at the moment. And this week's episode is brought to you by a real sponsor this week, Toy Vault, where Nick goes to get all his action figures and Funko Pops.
Damn straight.
Along with locations at the Warwick, Crystal, Dartmouth, Solomon Pond, and Emerald Square malls. They also have an upcoming event at the warehouse in Greenville, Rhode Island, over on Commerce Street. You'll hear more about them and that event on the DSG Facebook page later this week. I am, of course, Wesley Sykes, and through the other side of the ether is the Reverend Preston Teagarden to my Deputy Lee Bodecker, Mr. Nick Fryer.
Okay. I mean, if we're talking about like personality-wise, or are we talking about looks?
I just like the names. Of course, we're going to be discussing the Netflix film The Devil All the Time. Bit of a slow burn there, but one thing I was really marveling at was their name usage and selection in there. I thought Preston Teagarden and Deputy Lee Bodecker are two fantastic character names.
Yeah, they definitely are. And speaking of fantastic, though, that intro, I mean, I know I gush over you every single time now at this point,
no,
but
please don't let me stop you.
That one was a mouthful, and you knocked it out of the park, and then you're going rattling off these ridiculous names from this movie that I enjoyed, and I am very excited to talk about, but it was very dense, and I don't think it was necessarily for everyone either.
Yeah, no, not for everybody, but I do appreciate getting the accolades on the opening here, because I, much like Jay-Z, I do this in one take. So much like the GOAT rapper, which was a little bit of a contentious debate in the DSG chat over the weekend, but nevertheless, we might dive into that a little bit later this month. Who knows? But intro question here to get things rolling on the episode: would you rather eat nothing but pizza for an entire year, or never eat pizza again?
Eat pizza for an entire year. You can't lose out on pizza. It's like the best. It's the easiest food. Like, you don't ever need to be in a mood for it. You just pizza.
Nick,
okay, sure.
If anybody was watching the Pop Culture Pile Driver live stream last week, they would have seen your glorious six pack, albeit a little hairy and pale. Six pack nonetheless. Six pack none the richer, maybe. Who knows? That's a little play on words there. But anyway, you would lose that 100% if you're eating pizza, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snack. Maybe Tostino's pizza rolls in there in some way, shape, or form. Maybe a bagel bite for breakfast.
Ooh.
That's a lot of carbs, a lot of cheese, a lot of grease.
Well, you, like myself, do not eat in the morning, right? You still do intermittent fasting?
Correct, yeah.
So, A, that's important. B,
I'm catching up on you, the abs, too. I'm going to get there.
That's what I like to hear. That's
I won't.
That's how we stay the prettiest podcast in the hashtag Universe.
Motivation.
Exactly. And then what was B? Oh, B, gluten-free. And then you can get it with what? Like, I'm sure there's different types of cheeses like that aren't real cheese. I don't know. I've never had with goat cheese before, but
yeah, but then you're going into like artificial stuff, and that could be just as worse for you than like the authentic like mutts.
Okay, we're not supposed. I'm not going to get into this whole thing, but in another lifetime, I was a trainer. A strength coach. This, so I know a little bit about dairy and how we're not really supposed to have it after a certain point. But I'm not going to get into that. Gluten free though, that's how I would survive.
I'm a big believer in milk and cows' whole vitamin D milk.
No, you keep drinking that, and you ain't never going to catch me, Wes.
Well, I think it helps build strong bones. How many bones have you broken in your life?
I have one. My elbow. My elbow's fractured.
See, yeah. Had you drank some vitamin D milk, I haven't skipped, on the carton at lunchtime in elementary school. Maybe that elbow would still be in place. Maybe you wouldn't be doing a lowly podcast, as Kourtney Kardashian said last week. And maybe you'd be in the big leagues. Who knows?
Maybe I would be. Hey, I could make a case that I could still pitch for the Red Sox right now, because obviously they've.
Well, that's not too difficult of a case to make.
But I think we got Kourtney again this week. But either way,
I think we do too.
Oh well, she can go to hell either way.
Wow! This is a big get for us. We can't be talking to a sponsor. You're going to be talking to Eddie like that soon.
She's sponsoring me out. Eddie is advertising with us, despite the fact that every time I go into the Toy Vault, he always says, "How's Wes doing?" Like with a lot. tastes like it's gross coming out of his mouth.
He's asking though, and I appreciate that. I'm doing great, Eddie. Thank you for asking.
There you go. But either way, Courtney's not.
That's really funny, actually.
Yeah. Oh, every time I see him, hey, how's Wes doing? He's waiting for. I've told him, that there's an episode I want to have him on at some point when we go into Star Wars rewatches, but we'll wait for that for another time.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
But because he has some takes that you certainly will not agree with. But either way, if Courtney's going to talk about us like that, then I'm not going to just sit here and take it. I mean, you can, I guess, if you want. It's
classic negging. In fact, it kind of makes me want her more. I want her to like me more just because she talks to us. So it's working.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians since college because the girl I dated then watched it kind of sarcastically.
It's a great watch. No matter how you do, whether it's sarcastic or not.
Courtney sounds she sounds exactly as how I remembered her. It's crazy. Very impressive.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's a good get. I'll give you that at least.
Throw me some bones here. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for
Eddie's toy vault. The other one's getting Kourtney Kardashian. So, I'm just throw that out there.
Good point.
I love you, Eddie. That's no knock on Eddie, but it's Kourtney Kardashian.
He's gonna be so pissed. He's gonna be so mad.
That's not. No, that's not. It's just more of a statement about Kourtney. That's all I'm saying. Go to Toy Vault, everybody. And this week, as we already mentioned, we're going to be discussing the newest movie on Netflix that everyone's going to forget in about 2 weeks, The Devil All the Time. But first, Nick, let's trend now.
So one rumor that's been floating around for, it feels like years. It feels like when we started doing this show, the Keanu Reeves as Moon Knight rumor has been floating around since then. I liked it originally because I like Keanu Reeves. Who doesn't like Keanu Reeves? Who doesn't love John Wick? And I mean, I like him as John Constantine.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit different than what he is in the books, but still, that's okay. That happens all the time. But now that we're hearing the rumors again, even the last time they popped up, Wes, I'm done with these. I don't want Keanu Reeves as Moon Knight. The action, yeah, that might be good, but I'm all set with the character because I also with him as the character because Mark Spector and all the multiple personalities, I don't know how Keanu is going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, he's too big of an actor to play such a niche role on a TV show, on a streaming service. It just doesn't seem to add up. Like, I feel like, I feel like right around the same times those first Moon Knight rumors first popping up was the Silver Surfer, which if given the option of the two, I would prefer the Silver Surfer because that's a bigger, character that has more involvement over multiple movies as opposed to, just living potentially in this small Disney Plus show.
Better fit in terms of the character too. Not dealing with quite as much emotion there. Obviously, we've seen some of it
exactly.
back and forth, but it's not multiple personalities.
Like, I can see the look. Like, he kind of looks like if they shaved off his head, his facial hair and his hair and everything like that. He kind of looks like that nondescript humanoid.
Yes, he does look like how you would think. Yes, I agree with that. Whereas with Moon Knight, I've seen various names thrown around, but two that have popped up. I think Shia LaBeouf popped up even when we were back in our WFM days.
I love that.
I think that would be a great casting. I just want, again, we talk about it with any character. I just want to see him get into that shape where he looks like he could go and like he's ex-military because that's what you're dealing with Mark Spector. He's an ex-mercenary and everything. So I need that.
Shia LaBeouf will go full method though for his latest movie, The Tax Collector. Which I don't think was very good, but I think he actually got tattoos like tatted on his chest, like huge chest tattoos.
Actual tattoos?
Yeah, and I feel like for another role, like he might have like pulled out his own tooth. Maybe that was in the Fury movie with Brad Pitt. So he definitely like is one of those Jared Leto like really submerged himself in the type of role thing. So I think he would do that. Yeah, he would really commit.
At least with him, I feel confident, like him doing that, fine, whatever. But like he's going to get the job done. Leto, I don't trust him at all. But
no.
Speaking of, actually, you're right because with LaBeouf went he was getting high when they were doing the Dazed and Confused reading. He really leaned into that one.
Stop it. I'm not even gonna engage.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, the other name
talk about Josh Radnor.
Well, the other name that I saw pop up too was Ted Mosby. Yes, Josh Radnor. So Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother, obviously an insufferable character. I watched the entire show. My God, I couldn't stand him. But with how mopey and up and down he can be, I think he could take on this role. I saw someone float this idea out. There's like a fan cast. I'd be more willing to try that than Keanu honestly. I think he would be, because I know you don't need to be exactly what the character is, but I just think Keanu is just, you're going to see, like, there's John Constantine, there's Neo, like there's like a slight deviation from Keanu in different directions. And then the same thing with John Wick, but they're all fairly similar to just Keanu Reeves being Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know much about this Josh Radnor. Never watched How I Met Your Mother. That came up also. That was a topic of conversation for probably too long on Pop Culture Pile Driver, but I've never seen a full episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Well, I'd rather that you guys talk about that than try and convince me that Blink-182 is a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, that's a tough stretch on that one.
Look, my God, I love you, brother, but come on, what is that?
Yeah, it's a classic troll job. You respect the effort on that.
Yeah, I'll give him that. But what else is trending, Wes?
Yeah, so we're sticking in Disney Plus and small-time TV shows here. Samuel L. Jackson to star in his own Nick Fury Disney Plus MCU show. So that's kind of interesting. That it's still very early on, so there's not much out there about what it would follow, what would it be about, how it would tie in, if anything. But the real reason why I brought this up is because you look, Disney Plus now has Moon Knight, which you just mentioned, Loki, Hawkeye, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, along with new titles like Shang-Chi and the Eternals, as well as Black Widow, Spider-Man 3, Thor Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange 2, all expected to come out in 2 years, in like the next 2 years. Now I'm starting to think, like, is this a good or a bad thing? Like, obviously we've had this time off, and we'll go like the first year in like 20 years where there hasn't been a Marvel movie released or anything like that. But will this be like too much too quickly? And too building up world building too fast.
The only thing I'm wondering is, how do they handle the release of the episodes? I think as much as Disney and some of these other places, like obviously with Mandalorian, right? They've been doing weekly releases of each episode. I think that Disney should do that with some of these. Also, they might want to take a page out of Amazon Prime's book with The Boys, where they release 3 and then do the rest, week by week. Or they may, with some of these, want to just go all at once. Because when you talk about how are we going to get exhausted too much at one time, well, if you give us that one show all at once, and then it's like, oh god, like we turn into the Chappelle gif, right? You got any more of them Disney Plus Marvel shows?
Tyrone Biggums.
Yes, there you go. So maybe if you kind of mess with us in that way, I'm not going to care. I'm going to watch it all. You're going to watch it all too, but you will complain along the way, right? Because like Marvel, Netflix, right?
Well, if it doesn't tie in, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's got to connect.
So wait a minute, if that all tied in,
I think that would help. I I would definitely have like sat through it more.
Okay. All right. Good to know. I mean, I feel like you've told me that before and I just forgot. But anyways, regardless, actually,
it's okay. It's been a while since we rehashed that debate.
Yeah, it's been a while. But either way, Richard Grant, by the way, speaking of casting too, Richard Grant, was he the one that just got cast in Loki? I believe it was him. I know he is cast for Loki.
Oh, yeah. I saw something quickly about that, but I was scrolling through Twitter, so I didn't really catch that. But I saw something referencing what you're talking about. So
yes.
I'm almost there.
You're almost there. But either way, I think, like I said, if they handle the release of these a little bit differently, it could work really well, because we want anything superhero right now like as best as we can, right?
Oh yeah, I just wonder, like, again, that's a lot of titles in what I would imagine to be a 2-year stretch, and could it just be oversaturation at that point? Do you have an instance of maybe stretching yourself too thin? I would imagine that Disney and Marvel has as many resources as they could ever want or imagine. But I think these are some questions that kind of pop up when you look at, like I said, I think it's about a dozen titles or so.
Now, I just made a note for later on, so don't forget this, but I have a question for you that I want you to think on as we go along and get into The Devil All the Time. Is The Devil All the Time a prologue to, or prelude, whatever, to WandaVision? Because you have Tom Holland, you have Sebastian Stan in this, and could it be that Wanda's created this weird reality, and that's what happened to Spider-Man and Bucky Barnes, and they got somehow stuck in West Virginia together?
That could be interesting. I'd be interested to see WandaVision, to see what happens. But I like where your head's at, and for those of you who may like also where Nick's head at, I think there's probably a minority of people. But go back a couple episodes to our Multiverse Madness episode, where we discuss things very much like Nick was just talking about, where we take characters and try to put them in other universes and connect them and see how that happened. And it was a train wreck of success, I might say.
Train wreck? I thought that was a perfect success. I thought we did. You each did it differently, and we accomplished what we both wanted to do. And you impressed me along the way.
Well, you always watch a train wreck, right?
This is true. This is true.
So see what it was kind of an oxymoronic type of phrase.
Yes. Okay. Got it. All right. Now I'm on.
It's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
Some would say this is starting to turn to a train wreck because I misread what you were trying to say. Anyways, speaking of Netflix, though, Netflix's Sandman, which is a Neil Gaiman book from Vertigo, which was part of DC. Now I think they've kind of gone away from Vertigo and they have more of the Black Label stuff, which is awesome. The Netflix movie is starting to film in October. There have been delays with this. Now, Lucifer is ongoing now, and I haven't mentioned that in our quarantine corners at all. I do watch Lucifer. I have not started on the last season, though, of that yet. But I would think we're gonna see that character mixed in with the Sandman universe because he's part of that whole thing, and he's a character that Neil Gaiman. I don't know, I think that specific Lucifer he created, Lucifer Morningstar, he created that character, obviously based off the devil and everything. He is the devil and everything, but that's why whatever. Anyways.
I thought this whole topic was going to be about a biopic on Metallica and or Mariano Rivera.
Biopic or biopic?
Well, some people put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
This is true. I don't know why that one always gets me.
It's a good one. That one's been in the arsenal probably since 2003.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And like with any good joke in comedy, the key is repetition.
This is very true. Speaking of which, I forgot my where's that? The world's best boss mug. I don't know where. I think it's in the dishwasher, unfortunately.
Oh boy. What are you drinking from? Oh, that's that. Not, I thought you were doing like a nice subliminal hint. What are you drinking from today?
I'm drinking from a worn down Northwestern baseball mug.
Oh, lovely. So yeah, you got some years out of some wear and tear, like that elbow of yours.
Oh wow. Okay.
But we have some movement, a little bit of movement here. I'm not talking about in my pants, Nick. So calm down. I'm talking about the title to Borat 2, and it's been released.
Okay.
Or has it?
Okay. What is it?
So it was apparently this name was leaked out on the internet over the weekend. It's Borat. Gift of pornographic monkey to Vice Premier Mikhail Pence to make benefit recently diminished nation of Kazakhstan.
Okay.
So that's definitely a mouthful, and I may have stumbled over some of the words there, but it's supposed to read kind of weird and awkward, so bear with me there. But it was apparently removed from the website, that it was posted on Sunday. I think a WGA might be some Hollywood site where they list like upcoming movies and stuff. But that was removed, and others have rumored the name to be Borat 2 Great Success.
See, I like that a lot more. That's nice, neat, and tidy. Maybe the other one will be the European title.
Yeah. The other one, that seems like a Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous thing. Like that seems like a good idea, maybe on paper, to go really long like that. But Great Success is probably a better, more catchier name.
SEO.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We're big on the SEO here at the Change My Mind podcast, but there is no confirmation of the plot, casting, director, or even a distributor, let alone a release date. None of that's been confirmed, though it is expected to be released before the election, as the movie, as you may have been able to tell from the title, is believed to be politically bent, much like the first one.
Okay.
So, it would be a release before the election at a time where the politics would be at its highest.
Are you excited for this?
I'll see it. I have a feeling this could be teetering along the lines of Super Troopers 2, or like Dumb and Dumber 2, where so much time has passed between it's like such a great comedy that it's almost past its part where it can make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I'm all right. I mean, I'll watch it. Like, I'm all right with it. But is this something that we're going to want to review, you think, like just off the...
Well, depending on when if it's released in November, late October, there's not really a whole lot else. And I think... I
mean, in general, like if we weren't in the middle of the pandemic and everything was kind of back to normal and all these movies were out, do you think we would normally review it?
No, I wouldn't jump at it.
But we are actually, you know what? I'm going to add something to your intro. We are also the bravest podcast in the hashtag Dorkshire Gooner.
We are, yeah. And that doesn't get said enough.
Right. We are the only ones that will go to the theater. Now, I will say, Mac and Goo, as much as they may not always listen to our show, they do at least give us credit in that regard. But everybody else, they just ignore it. So I don't appreciate that from Rich Keefe or Rossi.
Yeah. And the rest of them, to be honest here. How about a nice mazel tov to Will Smith? Celebrated his 52nd birthday this past week. To honor Will Smith, Nick,
yes.
What are your top 3 Will Smith characters?
Do in order?
Regale me with a story.
In order or just
dealer's choice. There's no rules here, right?
Hitchcock, I would say Jay, and then
Jay,
Jay from Men in Black.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I like Deadshot a lot too, but I'm not going to put him in there necessarily because I think Will Smith did better with these other roles as much as I like Deadshot, and obviously that's a bad movie. But Dr. Robert Neville from I Am Legend.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. So I think Mike Lowry. Mike Lowry. Mike Lowry from Bad Boys would be number 1 because he's rich. He's driving a Porsche. He's got hot chicks. He's a cop. He's wearing like satin suits and silk suits and shit. Like, yeah, that guy's got style. So and the number 2 would be Captain Stephen Hiller from Independence Day because he's an American patriot. And he punches an alien in the face.
Nice.
Like, that's like, yeah, that's just pretty. That's alpha if I've ever seen it. And lastly, Alex Hitchens from the cult romantic comedy classic Hitch. He's dating Eva Mendes. He's a love guru. He's living in New York City. He's making a lot of money. He's self-employed. So I think that's a pretty good gig for Alex Hitchens.
Yeah, he looks pretty good.
Whale from The Fresh Prince. That's a pretty classic role there too. But I thought that was obvious, so I just wanted to throw in the Hitch. Hitch some love.
Yeah. No, I thought it was good. And I just wanted to make everything clear too that my impression that I just did the Mike Lowry one was not of Mike Lowry. It was actually of our former guy in the chair and the guy who runs the show over at midnight.fm. We're also carried Tim Weisberg. That's my impression of him doing an impression of Mike Lowry, which if you go back into the archives over at Geeks Worldwide and everything, you'll find all that because he used to do that a little bit when he was on our show, I think.
I like that. It's good. It's nice to give Tim some love. We got to bring him back October for some spooky stories.
Oh, yes. Yeah. See, well, everybody's got scary movies that they're going to talk about, which I'm excited for. Don't get me wrong. We're going to get an actual ghost hunter, a paranormal investigator.
Real life shit.
Yes.
We're playing for keeps ghosts on the Change My Mind podcast here. We're playing for keeps, son.
Can't see me. Yes.
No. John Cena, too. We're going to have John Cena on.
I'm a little confused by your tactics, but I'm going to keep acting tough so I figure out what's going on. Abracadabra, Holmes.
Nice.
All right.
Let's get to the comic book minute here. Let's move forward.
Just a quick mention, too. We have all our stuff on TeePublic, and Wes has been working on getting us some new stuff, guys. Couple new shirts, I think, are on the way. Well, shirts, sweatshirts, all that stuff. We will let you know as soon as that happens. And make sure if you're following us, Mac and Goo, PCPL, they don't have the gear yet, or hashtag dork, or you're on the hashtag dork shared Gooniverse Facebook page. We let you guys know when TeePublic is having sales. They usually have a few a month. So make sure you're looking for those and save yourself a few bucks. We'll get some awesome stuff. As for the comic book minute.
Well, if I could jump in, I just had a little idea. I think of myself as an ideas man. I think I thrive off enthusiasm usually. Yes. I was just spitballing an idea for PCP real quick. For something they could do with a shirt. Everyone likes to, dump on Rossi for his hot takes. Of course, there's a whole segment now devoted to it on the Dork podcast. You know that meme where it's like the dog who's in like a burning building and it's like everything is fine. Like you have that picture, but you use like Rossi's little emoticon that Billy makes.
Yes,
this is fine. It just says Rossi's hot takes.
Oh, okay.
And he's just living in a burning building.
Yes, I like that.
That's just now. It's a working idea,
Yes, it's something that Billy could work with, and Billy's the guy who makes most of the shirts for the Gooniverse, and he hasn't done anything for PCP yet. It's a little mind-boggling.
Yeah, he's got to do the old Hollywood director, mantra: one for me, one for you, one for me, one for you.
Right. And at some point, we're gonna have to make some TLDR shirts because Lord knows Doc is dying for me to get those up there.
That's right.
Anyways, so DC this week, we have Red Hood 49, John Constantine, Hellblazer 10, and Death Metal Multiverses End issue. It's a one-off, so issue 1. I am reviewing all of those this week. I read those first 2 titles. Red Hood, fine. Constantine Hellblazer, friggin' outstanding. One of the just every week, it's an awesome issue. Batman 3 Jokers issue 2 comes out this week. Doc and I will be talking about that a little bit on TLDR, I'm sure. Wonder Woman 84 has an issue coming out. I didn't look into this a whole heck of a lot, but I imagine it's tied to the movie. Batman, the Joker Warzone issue 1, and then we have Batman, Superman Annual 1. So I think I left out like maybe only 2 DC titles. They got a huge week because there have been some slow ones. Marvel, The Immortal Hulk, The Threshing Place, whatever the hell that means, issue 1. Shang-Chi, issue 1. Marvel Zombies, Resurrection, 2. Falcon and Winter Soldier, issue 3. Don't worry, Wes, I'm almost done.
Now, if I jump in, I might have asked you this before, so I apologize. Is that based off the show at all? Like, you know how they do that? They release comic books to kind of hype up like the property that's getting released, whether it's
I think it's leading up to the show. Some stuff that happens in between happens beforehand. Different, and the same thing with Shang-Chi, I believe too, because I know they always release stuff for movies. I don't think it's the official prelude to the Shang-Chi movie that I think comes much later, but yeah, those definitely you're right along those lines. And then Image has Spawn 310 coming out, Department of Truth issue 1, which I think Doc is reading. Last week Doc talked about Sea of Stars issue 7 is out this week, and then this is a big one for Goo, even though he can't read. IDW TMT Best of Raphael issue 1. Yes, not to be confused with Goo's son. But yes,
I was going to say, he's already got a best of issue. That good for him. A couple months in, man. It's hustling.
And you're speaking of all the indie books, Doc and I are both going to be talking about some indie books this week. The one I'm talking about is actually a book Wes has expressed interest in learning more about when I've brought it up. I'll tell you after the show which one it is, don't worry. But it's one that Wes is actually interested in. So, and I know it's been optioned for either a movie or a show already. So you guys may want to learn more about that now while you can. But we'll be doing that on Thursday at 8.
Well, my attention is definitely peaked, so that's good. I'm glad. And you killed it once again. That was good. You can take a couple breaths here because we're going to our main topic. All right. So then, of course, that's the 2020 movie recently released on Netflix, but about a week or two ago, I would say. Yeah, it's The Devil All the Time. So Nick, what do we got for a synopsis?
Which is about sinister characters converge around a young man devoted to protecting those he loves in a post-war backwoods town teeming with corruption and brutality. Wes, who is in this and who directed it?
Well, it's written and directed by Antonio Campos. I'm glad you asked. And it's starring Tom Holland as Arvin, Bill Skarsgård as Willard, Billard, actually. That's kind of interesting. I like when their names kind of line up with their real names. That's cool. Robert Pattinson as the aforementioned Reverend Preston Teagarden, Sebastian Stan as Deputy Lee Bodecker, Jason Clarke just playing Carl. Carl never rolled off came out of my mouth well. Like I always feel like it's like a tough, like feel like I'm like chewing on marbles when I say Carl.
That could be why nobody liked him in The Walking Dead. I don't think you're alone in that.
But I was a big fan of him in The Simpsons, though. So, you know, ipso facto. Haley Bennett played Charlotte. Eliza Scanlon played Lenora. And Kristen Griffin played Emma.
Emma? Which one is Emma?
I believe Kristen Griffin was the mother who had the chicken liver that was shat upon by Dr. Reverend Preston Teagarden.
What a friggin' dick that guy
was. Grade A D-bag.
And before we go any further, just so everybody remembers where the other shows in the hashtag Dorkshared Gooniverse typically do spoiler-free and then spoiler-filled. If we're talking, with Tenet we did spoiler-free, and with New Mutants we did spoiler-free. But this is a Netflix movie. This is one everybody can see right now. Right. Get into spoilers right out the gate after I give you the scores. So let's see. We had IMDb, which is one we care about most, 7.1 out of 10. A 65 and 82% split on Rotten Tomatoes, with a critics' consensus of The Devil All the Time's descent into darkness can be harrowing to the point of punishment, but it's offset by strong work from a stellar cast.
Nice. That's very nice. Yeah, and I think this is great. And it's an interesting title, too, because it really lives up to it. You know, like The Devil All the Time is a tough billing. You know, and you think if this movie was named like Devil Half the Time, would I be interested?
Probably not.
Nah.
Imagine
pitching that. You're like, this is Devil, but half the time. Yeah. And it's just a movie that's cut in half. Like it just cuts right off in the middle. Like you don't even get an ending.
So you're the one that's pitching it to me. Well, then I would say, get the fuck out of my office. What kind of idea is that? The Devil Half the Time. Who wants to see that?
Well, it would be like it would drop. You know, cut the movie in half. So it would only be like an hour and 10 minutes, say, hour and 5 minutes. And then if it is received well, you save a little bit of money, and then you drop the second half. It's a little bit of a teaser.
So this is a feature-length film, or is this now a 1 hour special? I'm confused.
Well, we could do it a couple different ways. I think you could deploy a similar tactic that a lot of the drug dealers do on the markets, where you give someone a little bit of tastes and hopes of getting your hooks into them, and then they would come back, and that's what you would call a repeat customer.
Okay, but then are you the kind of drug dealer who's going to start mixing in some bullshit, and then people are going to get sick, or in this case, they're going to not like what they see and think it's a bunch of bullshit and fluff?
I don't know. It depends on how much money I'm getting. How many corners do I have to cut?
You got a long way to go before we start talking money, son. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, okay. All right, then. It's probably going to be stepped on.
All right.
Well, and that's our Wire reiteration there, reenactment. And that's it. But how about a tweet length review and score from you, Nick?
A tweet length review.
That's 280 characters or less.
Okay, I keep forgetting that this is actually a thing that we want to keep doing all the time. So I did not get a 280 character.
I wrote it at the top.
It says tweet length. Jesus, I'm an idiot. Okay, well, I'm giving this an 85 out of 100, and I thought this movie was dark. I thought it was depressing, and it was a little at times much for me. But once things get rolling, it's nonstop. How's that? Is that 280 characters?
I think that works. I think it fits. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not the best tweeter in the world, but there you go. What do you got for me?
Yeah, maybe you could just pack it into like a tiny URL and just like add the link in there. Just kind of compact.
Go to the Berkshire Gooners Facebook page, and I'll give you my real thoughts on it.
Yeah, there we go. Really expound. We're not too far on this. I feel like we're usually in lockstep, right around the same neighborhood with some scores here. So I'm 81 out of 100. Tweet length review. 2.5 hours well spent, held my attention, great performances. We'll never watch this again. Put on something lighthearted afterwards. Yeah, I think you have. I think you should. Because it's a heavy movie that's dealing with a lot of bad people, and it's just like a dark cloud just kind of hanging over the entire movie, and you don't want to be hanging under that dark cloud. You put on The Office. You put on The Gay Witch Hunt.
You got a lot of scumbags in this movie. I never thought you could see so many. And I'm always interested in learning more about the South, but there's a different part of America. Like everywhere's so different. Like you've been across the country and everything. Like California is
here and there.
California is very different from here. But then you go down to like Lubbock, Texas, where I've been. Like that's so different. I haven't been to Louisiana, but my family's been there quite a bit for my brother's college travels and stuff. It's weird down there. And then there's Florida. Depending on where you go, you get like some amazing places where you live right on the golf course, and then the rest of it looks like the armpit of America. And then we're dealing with West Virginia like we are in this. And I've been through Ohio more than once, and guess what? When I go to Ohio, we've played there, Ohio State and stuff, but otherwise I'm driving straight through there because Ohio sucks.
Not a fan of the Rust Belt, huh?
Nope, not a fan of Ohio whatsoever. But there are other places that are cool. I mean, like Tennessee, right? I mean, I'm cool with that. But
they say Ohio is the only state that is round on the edges but high in the middle.
Okay. Ha 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 ha. That was so friggin' funny. Well done.
That's a joke.
I got it. I get it.
Jokes 101 from Wesley Sykes.
Yes. So well done, sir. Stick to the Jesus nonsense. Actually, speaking of that, as a man of God, were you offended by this movie?
No, I think it's fairly spot on. Actually, I think there's a lot of scumbags who use the faith to masquerade their darkness. Mm-hmm. We are a Massachusetts-based podcast. I think we need to look no further than the Archdiocese of Boston and what was going on there for years. Spotlight. Right. They knew. Mm-hmm. They knew. They're just playing. They played hockey. It could have been one of us.
It could have been one of us, yeah. Which is a callback, of course, to, was it our last episode that we had?
Our last episode with Mr. Connor Ryan on the best and worst Boston accent. So that doesn't really surprise me, but I really like the heaviness of this movie. This movie reminded me a lot of another movie that's, I believe, is still on Netflix. Maybe it just got cycled out, but The Place Beyond the Pines. And that's Eva Mendes, Bradley Cooper, and Ryan Gosling. And again, it's just kind of like backwards. And I even think, who's the guy who kind of looks like Dave Dombrowski? Oh, he's in Ready Player One.
Oh, give me a second.
He's in Rogue One. Ben.
I know what you're talking about.
He's in that movie, Ben Mendelsohn. Yes, yeah. He would be a great pick for Dave Dombrowski in the Red Sox biopic.
That's a good
I'm just putting that out there now.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's a very dark movie that kind of deals with like backwoods type of culture, kind of like redneck culture, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting here. But what did you like about this movie, Nick? It seems like we liked a lot.
I liked a lot about this movie, but I'm with you, Wes. I won't say that I won't watch it again. I don't know that I'll watch this again. I can't if I'm hanging out with somebody who's like, hey, have you seen this yet? Yeah, but I haven't. Yeah, I'll watch it with them. But other than that, I don't know if I'll sit down and watch it by myself again. But the thing that I like the most is, like you said, talking about the religion and everything. I do think there are a lot of people out there who use religion for their own messed up reasons to justify their own messed up actions, and they think somehow it makes certain things okay. And we see that with pretty much every single person that's deranged, I guess, in this movie. And I think as much as there are some, like, Pattinson's good, a good character. And I think what's the guy's name that you were talking about?
I kind of hated his character, and not just because he's a scumbag's character. Like, I just wasn't a big fan. We'll get into that.
Okay, yeah. but he's definitely a scumbag. Okay, so you don't like him, but Carl is obviously a bad character. But there's religion with him and all that crap. I thought that Harry Melling's performance, but Roy Lafferty, he's the first preacher that we see, and we saw him in The Old Guard as well. If you remember, he's the main villain in that movie. Do you remember? No, The Old Guard. You remember with Charlize Theron?
Oh yeah, Kenneth Branagh was Tenna. Yeah. I don't remember that movie. Again, this is another Netflix movie that I enjoyed. That can't remember.
Remember when you asked me what's the worst way for me to die? The last. Like, I remember the whole Alzheimer's thing.
Yeah.
That was the episode, and that was about the characters that.
No, I remembered the movie. I don't remember the characters. What I'm saying.
Oh, but either way, I thought he did a good job in that movie. I thought he did an even better job in this one, and we see where. Again, we're spoilers right out the gates, where he kills his wife because he thinks God told him he has the power of resurrection. What the fuck is wrong with you? There's supposed to be only one individual that's can do that, and it's not you, buddy. It's supposed to be Jesus or whatever. If not, it's God alone. That's it.
Oh yeah. The really bad preacher who marries Lenora.
Yes, who stabs her in the neck.
Yeah. Yes,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were talking about the priest of the pastor that Pattinson ended up replacing.
Oh, the very first. No, the guy who was like the guest preacher.
Yeah, right. Who has yep.
Yeah. So now all right. Now we're on the same page. Yes, but that guy was a scumbag and he might have been again, I keep forgetting that character's name. The driver, Carl. Carl was bad too. Carl was worse, but both of them were a-holes.
I mean, it's all bad people. I think the first thing that I loved about this movie is the intersections of everyone's lives and how they all came together. And it's the idea of living in this small town, backwoods, West Virginia community, that even if you're 20 miles down the highway or something, word travels pretty fast, even in the 1950s, 1960s setting of this movie. And you have all these people that are intersecting, like you have Bill Skarsgård, who is Tom Holland's father in this movie, intersecting with Carl after he's coming back from Vietnam or the South Pacific in the war, and he ends up meeting his wife, and Carl ends up meeting Charlotte in the bar. And how they just kind of cross paths, and then the same thing ends up happening with Charlotte, who ends up being Lee Bodecker, Sebastian Stan's sister, and he's the sheriff in the town, neighboring town that discovered Tom Holland after Bill Skarsgård killed himself, and it's just this intersecting weave of everything. Again, reminds me a lot of The Place Beyond the Pines, because I think if I remember correctly, they kind of have this intersecting thing over an extended period of time that all kind of ties up together.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I'm just kind of a sucker for those type of things. Like, you talk about Crash or Crazy Stupid Love. He's just not that into you. Those type of movies that kind of have that serendipitous kind of in and out of people's lives and connections. Like, I really enjoy that. I think that some people might find that gimmicky, but I really love that. I thought that was a strong point of the movie.
I thought they did an outstanding job of this. I think it was a strength as well. And speaking of being suckers for certain things, when you talk about religion in any film, and you really try and lean into like some of the twisted parts of it, to me, I always find that interesting. Obviously, it's heavy, but you're going to get my attention with that almost all the time. Especially in the way they did it here, I really liked it. But obviously, Pattinson's character is a scumbag. In the course of I didn't touch on him yet, but when it comes to the storytelling of all this, there were times at the beginning I was like, okay, why do we need to go this far back? I didn't expect it to be this much, but as you go along, what they do so well is they keep you interested with certain characters. You have the star power also that keeps you interested along the way, and then when they tie it all together, as you inch along, I thought they did a really good job with that, and the payoffs, I guess, are very well done. And it's like once I realized that Tom Holland was going to run into Carl and Bo Decker's sister, once I realized that, it was probably max 5 minutes before that. Like, it was right after he killed Robert Pattinson's character, was on the road, and then realized he's going home. Then it's like, oh, Car's probably gonna break down. He's gonna run into them, and then they're gonna have it out. But it was that all happened so quickly at that point. I don't mind that. Nothing was soft tossed to us, I felt like, throughout the majority of it.
Yeah, and I think for as much of a slow burn this movie was, I think a big thing that's a good a must-have for any type of this style of movie is a good score. And this movie does a good job of kind of keeping you tense at these moments that are otherwise boring, but you kind of feel like really tense just because of the background noise or the underlining score of the movie. So I thought that was a really good job, because otherwise, they're really boring people for the most part, just living in backward, and obviously they're doing some like heinous stuff. Like, obviously, Reverend Robert Pattinson over there is sleeping with all the young girls, and then just kind of like forgetting about him. The other preacher guy that you were mentioning there, that I'm blanking on his name, he plays a really good creep too. Killing his wife, like you mentioned, and then also killing Lenore too, right? Is that?
So his wife?
No. I'm sorry, I screwed that up there.
He killed his wife. I forget what his wife's name is. That's the actor is Harry Melling, and he plays Roy Lafferty.
Yeah, and stabs her right in the neck with the screwdriver and everything. Yeah, that was a great scene, and a lot of that stuff too. It's like kind of like jump scares, like when you talk about Bill Skarsgård in like the South Pacific, when they come across the human crucifixion there of one of the soldiers.
Oh my God!
Starts breathing again, like the guy in Seven. Is it that same type of scene? Like, I thought that was a great jump scare, and the same thing when he goes to stab the neck, like. You're waiting for him to do something. He's going to do something, but you're kind of waiting to see how he's going to go about killing her. Yeah, and it just kind of comes up, and it almost looks like 3D. It kind of comes up and pops you like right in the middle of the screen there.
Right.
And it was great. I love that stuff.
The other thing that's we talk about, suspense and all this too. We don't know with any of these characters who's necessarily going to survive, because we're not dealing with superhero characters. We're not dealing with like action characters where you think, oh, they're gonna, they could have another movie down the line. Like this movie is done. Like, this franchise is done. It's not a franchise. We're not seeing any more of this ever again. This is it for this character, this Tom Holland character. So I don't know every step of the way. Like, you expect he's probably going to take care of Pattinson's character, right? That guy's never won a fight in his life. But when he runs into Bo Decker's sister, which again, I'm blanking on her name, but her and
Charlotte.
So he runs into Charlotte and Carl. When Charlotte goes to shoot him, I thought he was going to kill Carl. But when Charlotte shot him, I was like, oh shit, he might have died right there. I'm not paying attention to the time and length of the movie at that point. But what's to say that she's not the one that survives? And then we see a little bit of her. As much as he's the main character in all this, there's just room for doubt every step of the way, and that's important.
Yeah, and I thought Tom Holland did a great job. I thought he played this very well. I only really know him from the Spider-Man movies. Maybe he's been in some other things that I haven't seen, but I thought he was muted, stoic, but still kind of got across these like intense emotions that are kind of lying underneath that still demeanor that he had throughout of it. So I thought you could really feel that intensity, without him necessarily saying anything. Like, he had all this, pent-up aggression of, seeing his mother pass away and his dog get killed and crucified, which I hated. and then obviously seeing his dad kill himself.
Yeah.
Like that, he's seen a lot of stuff. And just like his dad said, like there's a lot of what was it like messed up people in the world, or a lot of like shitbags in the world, or something like that.
A lot of bad people. Yeah, he did. Yeah, something along those lines. His character was outstanding, and the fight scene with him when he went and beat up his stepsister's bullies.
Yeah,
much like his dad when his dad lost it on those like hunters or whatever those guys were from the town that were chirping him about his wife. He goes and kicks their ass. That was awesome. But when Tom Holland went all out, I just. You don't expect it from him. He's Peter Parker. As much as he fights guys, like there's a lot of rage pent up when he was hitting these guys. The first guy, I think he was hitting with a crowbar or something. Yeah. Like so he went all out, and it was just raw. And I don't have a sister or anything like that, but I'm sure we've all had moments where somebody close to us is getting picked on or dealing with some shit, and we'd love to punch the bully's face in on their behalf. Tom Holland goes and does it right there, and it just felt very real.
It felt great, yeah, and I also really love the Carl Charlotte storyline. I wish they tapped into that a little bit more than the Robert Pattinson thing, because it seemed like Pattinson was billed as like this bigger character, like almost like the main protagonist, and it was really kind of sharing that protagonist title with the Carl Charlotte storyline, where he's this kind of like pervert photographer who gets off on murdering people with his wife or his girlfriend, Charlotte, sleeping with him before, after, during. It looked like he shot off someone's dick before, like in like these quick cuts.
Yeah.
And like, I like the way they really kind of like, that was kind of like a flash, but they really alluded to like how much murdering he had done, just picking up these hitchhikers along the road. Mm-hmm. With the negatives of the cameras and looking into that and stuff. I thought that was like really tastefully done in a way.
Tastefully done, and it felt like it gave it sort of a documentary vibe too.
Yeah.
With all those things, they only have so much that they can work with, because obviously with something like this, it happened so long ago, but they still want to give us an idea. Yeah, that character was probably the most messed up one, and I know Pattinson was something that you didn't like so much, but I think with Pattinson being in Tenet, with Pattinson being Batman now, you're naturally drawn to him more, because we're all waiting to see, like, we're analyzing every single thing he does leading up to Batman, because can he take on this role? I know I think we all feel better about it, but there's still some doubt, I think, in everybody's mind. So when you see him, you're drawn to him more so. I don't like, he was a cog in the machine. He was an important piece, I think, in order to get Tom Holland to Carl, because why is Tom Holland going to leave?
Yeah.
If Pattinson doesn't do the shit that he does to Tom Holland's stepsister and all this,
Yeah, I just think it was more of like a marketing thing. Like or maybe that was just a perception thing. Like I thought he was going to be more play of a bigger role, and I wasn't really that blown away by the things that he did. Like obviously the guy's a jerk. Like you immediately write him off when he's getting introduced to the church for the first time, and everyone's bringing all this great food and everything. And the mother, who's Emma, I think her name was there, who makes the chicken livers and goes out through all this stuff, but she doesn't have all this money. She's supposedly like the best cook in town, and he like just shits on it, and just like right in front of her humiliates her. And I'm like, all right, you're done. You're dead to me.
Yep.
So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that, but I just want to get back to one thing about what I liked about this movie, and this is Sebastian Stan, and him in his opening scene. The first time you see him on camera, this guy's getting a hand job in a cop car from a lady, and it's so perfect, because I only know Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, the armless warrior, getting an HJ. Like that's like so perfect.
That's the original Bucky Barnes. That's what he used to be.
Right, yeah, he's getting a Bucky. Maybe that's what we should call it now. Like, not an old fashioned. I got a Bucky Barnes last night. I felt great.
Yes. Who doesn't love a good old Bucky Barnes in the first? Yes.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, so nice vibranium hand on you there. That grip of steel.
Again, further proof that this is part of the MCU. That this is a WandaVision, because now this is Bucky being back in his heyday, being back to being the man, pre-Winter Soldier, pre-death. Yeah, this is part of the MCU. But yeah, that was funny. It took me a second to like, is that Bucky? Because it was dark in that
yeah.
scene.
Yeah,
that's not Bucky, is it? No friggin' way. That's Sebastian Stan right now.
And I love that they make him look tall, because I think he's really a short guy. I think he's got the Tom Cruise thing where they have to like shoot him from angles. I could be off base, but I remember hearing that he's like a short guy.
Probably 6 feet tall. I mean, he's okay. He's listed as 6 feet on the internet, which probably means he's 5'10", which Tom Cruise is shorter than that, right?
Yeah, I think Tom Cruise is a little fella. I think I can pick him up and put him in my pocket.
Yes,
take him to go. What didn't you like about this movie?
Well, first of all, it's the narration. This is the biggest thing for me. The narration was important at the beginning. It gave that eerie vibe. It played on the whole Southern feel to it. It's very important in setting the tone early on. And there were moments, I guess, that I was okay with it, but by and large, it's like, all right, shut up. Like this isn't a book on tape. I don't need this shit right now.
It was a book, though.
I know it was a book, but I don't need a narrator. That's what the visual. It's a movie. It's a motion picture. That's gonna what's going on is gonna tell me everything I need to know.
Oh,
there are certain details. Sure. Oh, you didn't realize it was a motion picture.
Let me just jot this down real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, how many movies do you watch, Wes, that have a friggin' narrator in it?
Ted.
Ted? When did Ted? Where? I don't.
Did Ted have a narrator?
Patrick Stewart at the beginning and at the end. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying at the beginning and the end. He's mixed in throughout the entire movie.
One of the greatest sitcoms of all time, How I Met Your Mother. Bob Saget.
No one has any issues with Bob Saget being the narrator in that. None.
Right, yeah, that worked out fine.
Right. Yes, I thought you were going to say according to Jim.
The Wonder Years. That's good.
Some good old American fun. Anyways, the narrator. I could have done less without that. And then when we're talking about the score, Wes, these are really my only two things. When I would have liked more Pattinson, yes, because the character seemed like he had a lot of messed up shit there. But I still think we got the gist of what he was because he's just a scumbag. You don't need to know more about him. There's whatever. But this is it's a heavy movie. There's a lot there, and there's really no. As much as it's a slow burn, there's never a moment of levity. Even when the girl has a child, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to commit suicide." It's like, okay, nice. Then boom, bucket kicks out from under her, dead. See ya. Like it's just nonstop sadness throughout this entire movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually want to give a tip of the cap to the young Arvin. I thought the child actor there did a really good job.
Yes,
yeah.
Great call.
There's death and despair at every turn. I've really loved the setting of this movie. I know you touched on that a little bit. I thought this was kind of like the perfect time and setting and location for like an eerie, religious adjacent type movie. But so I wasn't a big fan of Pattinson's character. I feel like he was kind of rushed in. A lot of the characters, they spent time developing their backstory, so you got to know him, especially with Tom Holland and his father and everything. And then all of a sudden they get this young guy in, from the church, and he's just kind of rushed in there. So I would have liked to know a little bit more about him, his backstory, what's kind of going on with him, why is he such a philandering type of guy, but maybe we don't need that. And I think if I like what you said as the character being used as a vehicle to get, Tom Holland to Carl, and that kind of connection, but it seems awfully flashy of a role to maybe you didn't need something that big or for Pattinson to do. Maybe that could have been a more subtle way. I don't know. Obviously this was a book, so maybe Pattinson's character is more fleshed out in the literary version. They only have so much time to do it on the screen, but I don't think that he's even the best off the hinge rural preacher. I think that goes to Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood. I thought he was great. And you talk about these movies like that really what drew me to this is that like cultish religion, off the beaten path, not mainstream religion type movies that you see with like True Detective and that sort of thing. Or I think True Detective kind of reminds
because you get the Middle America vibe and everything.
Yeah. And it's kind of like eerie and it's religious, but it's also kind of like it's like spiritual or not magic, but like dark thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just kind of losing it here.
No, I get what you're saying, but real quick, going back to we're talking about fleshing out Pattinson's character a little bit more. Obviously, like we said, this is a book or a movie that I'm assuming this isn't part of a series of books, but it seems like a one-off. That's it. That's all we're getting. I'm cool with that. But would you have liked to see this come out as like a 6-episode series or maybe 3 episodes?
Yeah, I think that could have worked. I mean, I think with the suspense aspect, I think those work really nice and probably presents itself to like really drop the audience on some cliffhangers and leave them coming back. I think that would be, not a bad way to serve this movie, but I thought it was fine as a movie. Like I said, it was, a little under 2.5 hours. I think 2 hours, 15 minutes or so was the runtime. And it was long, halfway through or so. I'm checking out my phone and stuff, but it held my attention. Like I said, just because of the score and the tension that felt like it was throughout the movie that really carried through those slower parts.
Okay, I never felt like I was looking at my phone because to me it seemed like it was so dense. It felt like at times I can't look away. Like when oh my God, I keep blanking on the actor's name. Harry Melling, when his character of Roy Lafferty stabs his wife, I looked away for it. I had looked away for a second, and then it was like boom, right in the throat. What the hell just happened? So I was from there on out. I was like, I cannot step away from the TV at all. Or look away. Got to watch the entire thing. So I like this movie a lot. I think an 85 is fair. I mean, again, for me, when you're dealing with like 85 to 95 range, that you can be dealing with a movie that's outstanding, but not necessarily rewatchable because there's so much there. It's an experience the first time, and then after that, you may watch it again if somebody else wants to, but you're probably not going to bring it up yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It had its flaws, but I enjoyed the 2.5 hours or so. So I'm happy with it. One last question before we move on. To wrap things up here, but what do you think happened at the end? We see Arvin just kind of getting away scot-free, just getting moving on.
Am I crazy, or did we see the guy who picked him up earlier in the movie? Was that driver not the same person that his mom helped out with when Arvin was a kid, when he was asking for food coming into the restaurant? I mean, before Arvin was born?
The homeless guy?
The homeless guy. Was that not the same guy?
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. That's really interesting. If it did, then I might have to go back and watch it just for that. I had no idea.
Yeah, it seemed like he wasn't. Look, he had long hair. He was a bum, but this guy's a hippie driving down the road, and he's in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah,
it looked kind of similar. I'll try and as we go along, I'll try and
interesting.
I forgot to mention that. I should have looked up if the casting and everything, because that would probably tell us. But I tend to think, Wes, that he entertains the idea of a military, but it'll be easy for Arvin to. He's a good looking kid and everything. He's got a good heart. He'll find a girl and he'll end up settling down and just work.
I don't think so, man. I think no matter where you go, you're bringing yourself. He's bringing with him a whole lot of problems that he's probably handling the old Irish ways, just stuffing it down with unfiltered cigarettes and whiskey. And it's just all this like suppression and stuff that he's just bottling up that he has to keep inside. Like the poor wife, whoever has to deal with him, like he's going to be a real pain in the ass. And like you could probably get away with it. It's like 1960s. There's no cell phone tracking. There's no GPS. Like, you could really just hop in a car and disappear. Like that's kind of crazy to think in 2020 that you could get away with that. What is that, like 60 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was in the 60s. Yeah, that is another thing. In looking at all this too, it did seem very strange. Like, it's just wild how, and it's not just it's where you are in the country too. Because I do wonder with some of this shit, like, could you still get away with it now, or maybe even 10 years ago, could you get away with some of this stuff? Because it's just there's a lot of messed up places in this world.
Yeah, you're seeing. You want to expand your horizons. The 8 podcasts aren't enough. You just want to pick up criminal murder in your free time.
Yeah, I think I'm all set. I'm still trying to figure out if that was the same. That guy was the driver at the end of the movie. Was the hobo that came in, all this hippie Ted Cole. I'm assuming that's him, but
yeah,
I'm not seeing anything. I think it's him. I only see one guy mentioned in this. I don't know. Anyways, that's all I have to say about.
Definitive enough for me. I'll go with it.
Yeah. So there you go. It looked like the guy, and we only saw him very quickly in both instances. So, but that's all I have to say about the devil all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Devil half the time.
Half the time. Fine.
A good prequel. And then like the devil none of the time.
That's the boring part that nobody wants to watch, all the fluff and everything.
Yeah, it's just a 1 hour live stream of a mass.
Yeah.
It's all in Latin too. That's it.
I can't believe that happened more recently than this story would have supposedly happened, right? Like they were doing like masses in Latins, like what through the 80s,
I think you could still get them somewhere, if you go to like cities and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, that was for a time. That was it, right? They just did it in Latin.
Yeah, I mean, how is anyone supposed to know what's going on?
Yeah, we're taking all the preacher's word.
Dead language.
Yeah, we're just gonna take your word for it. But like you say, right? You got to trust a good book.
That's it. You got to trust in a good book.
Yes, that's why you stopped reading Harry Potter, right? Because it started out selling.
And once it got bigger, I mean, and that and witchcraft, the combination of those books getting bigger than the Bible, which is something I just told myself I'll never do, coupled with the fact that it's about witchcraft and wizardry. I just couldn't in good faith.
Of course.
No pun intended. Read that book.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I think that wraps up. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the devil all the time?
No, but I was going to say, speaking of witchcraft, is it time for your special guest?
Yeah, so I think we're going to be getting caught up with keeping up with the Kardashians. This is segment number 2 here of season 19. So I'm really interested to hear what I am going to be discussing with Kourtney Kardashian. So take it away, Wes.
And as a reminder for everybody who's watching us on our live stream, that is only available in the audio version of the show.
Yes.
So that brings us to the. Thank you, Wes and Kourtney.
Yes.
Now we head over to the quarantine.
That was a great segment, wasn't it? I thought it was fantastic.
Something else. It was. What
do you think of what she had to say?
She's a real piece of work. That's all I'm going to say. She's something else. But it is now. Look, we'll catch up with Kourtney next week. I want to hear what's going on in the quarantine corner with you. I feel like you had a big week last week.
Yeah. So in the quarantine corner, I, along with Ryan Davey of the #Dork podcast, appeared on Pop Culture Piledriver's September Sweeps series for One Hit Wonders, a One Hit Wonders draft, 5 songs, and then we apparently there were no rules. I think it was kind of open to interpretation. But I think there should be some rules on it because, needless to say, things can go awry. You have played, what's the term that I want to? You were like napalm in your Office episode recap, and I think Ryan Davey was also a little bit like napalm in this, just very explosive and divisive with at least one of his selections. Some people gave him shit for the Janis Joplin selection, but I don't know enough about her or her music catalog to get into that. What I do know is the Blink-182 thing. There's this trendy thing going around the internet. If you search Blink-182 and One Hit Wonders, it comes up with like, well, technically they're a one-hit wonder, but they have a greatest hits album. They have multiple great albums.
How the hell are they a one-hit wonder? No, that's a bunch of bullshit. And I was listening to the end of the episode with somebody else, and when they heard the recap of you guys going through your picks, the Blink-182 one obviously stands out, but the Janis Joplin, this is a person who kind of knows older music a little bit better than I think you or I might. You're like, Janis Joplin, what? So it's again, maybe to the letter of like Davy's Law or whatever.
Well, he was certainly stirring the pot.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: who do you think whose takes were a little bit hot? Who was too much for you? My stuff with The Office or Davy's with the One Hit Wonders?
I think you're more egregious.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
The Office. Yeah, the Office is the Michael Scott thing. That's pretty egregious. The Blink-182 thing, I think you actually believe that you don't like Michael Scott. You have said that. You've been on the record for that many a time. So I believe that you believe that asinine of a take, which makes it egregious. I think Davey was hamming it up a little bit, and all the more power to him. But I think he knew what he was throwing. He was getting everybody geared up for a fastball, and then he hit him with the okey doke Bugs Bunny change.
Yes, yeah. Well, honestly, at the end of it all, as much as we've given Davey a ton of shit, whose fault is it that all went awry in the middle of the episode?
Well, sure, but yeah, and he's winning. I mean, he's like dominating. He got of course, if this is ever evidence of the #Dork podcast bump, that I think this is a great one because I thought Billy had some good choices in there. I'm bringing up the rear with a solid 9% of 110 votes at the time, so including myself. So I probably had like 9 votes.
And that's what you want, though. You always want to be the first. If you ain't first, you're last. That's
well, real recognize real too, because I thought I had some good choices on there that for people who also identify with my style of music. Because I was not playing to the people, I was playing to myself and hoping that I would cast a net of real ones. Those who were also maybe knee deep in the rap game at one point in time. And I think I achieved.
Does it make you feel better or worse knowing that I voted for you?
Oh, no, I think that's great. I think that's good. It's good support. Okay. Although I know you think you don't know anything about rap music, but I do love the support.
I like Billy's list and I like your list. I mean, look, Davey gets Blink. Of course, I like that, but Blink does not. Like you lose me on that. That's not. It does not fit the definition. And I think Mac ended up voting for you as well in all this. And again, you talk about rap game. You, Billy, and Mac. You guys are all about that shit.
Well, yeah, and I know, I was reading the comments. I was going on the IG. I was reading the things that were getting shared, and I saw actually a good amount of comments that were saying West by a mile. So I was kind of shocked to see that I was so low on it. But I do appreciate those who said that because, again, recognize real. I'm a big fan right now of the handshake emoji, and that's what I would just send to those people. It's just
what a guy, what a guy. You're real class act.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. I don't know how to do this. All right.
Yeah, it's right. The right hand. Yeah,
it's hard on but now my right looks like my left's on the camera.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah,
it's a little confusing. But I'll tell you what, the sweeps month for PCP has been outstanding. If you guys haven't listened to it, I mean, they started off with the Disney songs draft with Goo and Shime. Then they came in with Was me and Keith after that? Yeah, we were the Office episode after that. And then they followed up with Mac and Doc talking about fast food. They had Wes and Davion for the One Hit Wonders, which that was the one. The music ones have been the ones I've been most excited about during the sweeps. And then they have, we'll talk about what's going on in the DSG this week coming up. But I know they're doing their finishing moves and wrestling with the Jobber Knocker podcast, right?
Yeah, and I love what they're doing with this is that they have a bump. That each person who's taking part in the draft or the tier making list has a bump, so they can bump one up and push everyone down and kind of create chaos.
I don't get what you mean by that.
So say if I, for example, had the Stone Cold Stunner ranked at number 5, which would be criminally low in my opinion, but you really loved the Stone Cold Stunner, you could bump it up to one spot to number 4, and it would push all the rankings down. So it's kind of like it's a way to create chaos,
Yeah, close to their candy draft, kind of, and all.
Yeah, exactly.
They did a really good job with that one. I think that was last month. They probably should have saved that for October, but whatever. For me in the quarantine corner, before we get to the rest of the DSG this week, I think everybody probably knows by now, but in case you didn't, Furloughed Friends, which was a show I was doing outside of the DSG, has now been welcomed into the DSG. So that means that I have my 15th podcast in the DSG, and Lucy Burge is now part of the DSG. So we've diversified in terms of our host. We now have a female. So
do you know for how this shared universe thing kind of started? It was with Mac and Goo podcast, and I believe they were talking about Tommy Westfall's Snow Globe. And I forget what this is from, maybe from like some like syndicated sitcom or something, TV show. But essentially, you are Tommy Westfall, and the Dorkshire Gooniverse is their Snow Globe. It's just Nick Fryer's podcast world.
Yeah, that's
we're all just living in it. And it's like you are Ed O'Neill. Yeah, Ed O'Neill from the Truman Show. You're just kind of organizing everything.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that too, of me popping up everywhere.
No, not Ed O'Neill. Isn't Ed O'Neill Al Bundy?
Is you talking about the Truman Show?
Yeah.
You know who knows a lot about the Truman Show? I think is Lucy. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Sure, we know the actor. I'm blanking on his name.
I don't know. But either way, I also did appear on PCP with Wes too. And if you guys want to know more about that, go watch the YouTube.
Yeah, you made a special guest appearance.
Yes, I did. That was quite fun. It was a nice surprise. I sounds like you might have known about it, but I don't know that Rossi. No, I know Davey didn't know about it. But anyway, so excited about that. And we do a little bit of sports on there. Wes is going to be appearing on there at some point. Davey's been on there a bunch. So has Keith. Rossi's been on there. So
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that I had to ask for an invitation.
If you just had a little bit of patience, you would have known that I want to get you on there.
Well, I'm just saying,
Again, patience.
It's not one of my virtues.
No,
I still got to brush up on that chapter in the good book.
Yeah. Well, keep reading that. You've only been reading it for like 15 years. Anyways,
well, it's a story that never gets old. It's the greatest story never told. So it's always nice to go back and just brush up.
Maybe pay attention to some of the stuff too. You're starting to remind me of Goo a little bit, who can never spell my name right. My God. He can't read. Goo can't spell, can't type, however you want to look at it. But anyway, that's why he does the audio, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, so Dorktober is coming up, and a show that is back on Netflix for anybody who's into all that horror stuff. I've talked about this in the past. Van Helsing, and this is with a female character, a female lead. I really like this show, and I think anybody who's likes any of those like hokey horror movies, this isn't, I wouldn't say it's hokey, but it definitely gets a little weird at times. It also gets very violent at times. I highly recommend this show. I believe it's a sci-fi show, and it's all on Netflix now. This 4th season. I absolutely love this thing.
Great, I love it too. I'll be very excited to discuss my discontent with you and Lucy about waiting so long for me to get me on the podcast, as well as discussing maybe a little geography.
Yeah. Yes.
How are your cartography skills, Nick?
Not that great.
Well, you might want to brush up on that, as well as the good book ahead of Thursday. That's all I'll say.
Those are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, furloughed friends, by the way, in case anybody's trying to keep track. And those are only on Lucy's Twitter feed and on the hashtag DorkSharedGooniverse Facebook page. You cannot get that in audio form, not yet at least. Also, last thing, all the jokes about me having a million podcasts. We're going to have a special, Goo and I. We mentioned Toy Vault at the top. We have a Toy Boys special. Goo always talks about toys on Mac and Goo. I never talk about it on our show.
Reviewing sex toys.
Yes. I'm sure a Toy Vault would appreciate us advertising it as that. But we will be talking about
this is a whole new market. Sorry,
action figures, pops, and all that kind of stuff. I think Goo's son just got a life-size baby Yoda. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. No, I'm not taking the big. Yeah. No, I'm not going down your bullshit road. No, wait, no try and help. But that again, that's presented by Toy Vault. I think that's going to be on Wednesday, and that will just be a DSG special. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Again, we do these once in a while. We're waiting for some OG October stuff, I think, from Wes, Billy, and Mac. Maybe Lucy too. She's a big Eminem fan. So, anyways.
Yeah. Also, before we go, on the topic of Goo's son, just to kind of save face here, I just want to point out. At the DSG golf outing, I was supposed to bring a nice little baby gift for little Raffy from Jules and I that I just left on the counter and just forgot to bring it. So I told him when we were out to eat, and I was like, who knows when I'm going to get it to him again? It might be too big by the time I get it out to him. And I was thinking that's probably a good idea just to get out of giving gifts. I just left it at home. But here's the gift anyway. But to prove that that's not the case, huh?
Oh, look at that. A little Marvel sweatshirt. That is awesome.
Right? A little something. So, Goo, maybe come and get it.
Yeah. There you go. We want to have another DSG outing as soon as possible. I was actually supposed to give him something too, because when I went to that comic shop up in Nashua like a month back, I ended up getting him cards from the
I remember you were saying that. Yeah.
And I forgot to freaking give it to him too. So we're in the same boat there. So speaking of Goo, they talked about The Silence of the Lambs this week on Mac and Goo. Of course, the audio version's up as soon as ours is, if not sooner.
It's all out now.
Oh, rip. So there you go. Hashtag Dork is doing Cobra Kai seasons 1 and 2. If you're watching us on the live stream, they're doing their live stream of it shortly after ours, and their audio version all up on Goo's Day.
Have you seen that?
I have not. I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
See, I want to give it. I've heard good things about it. I want to give it a go. I just haven't committed yet. Tough to commit in those things.
I still have. So Van Helsing's out now. I haven't gotten caught up on Lucifer, the latest episodes. There's a new season of Norseman, and then Ratchet. I'm 2 episodes in, and I like that a lot. So
you got a full plate.
I got a full plate, and then we had to watch this. So and then the PCP is doing the finisher moves. We talked about TLDR and Furloughed Friends. Wes. TBD for us next week, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to be TBD. Excuse me.
Just throwing it out there, we haven't had an argument or debate Any like that? Anything like that? In a good while.
I thought maybe not next week. Maybe something we just sit on for a minute. But I think we could bring in maybe our resident food expert for this. But how about a breakfast food draft?
Oh, okay. Well, and if we bring him in, do you think we got to bring in one of our so-called food experts from the Gooniverse?
Yeah, just not Mac. Mac is horrible food takes. He's a fraud.
Okay, so no Mac. Okay, got it. All right, duly noted. All right, so
but I don't know. Maybe that could be interesting. Like best eggs, or maybe we sit on that idea until March, and then we take part in a March Macness bracket, if you will, of breakfast foods. Then you have like eggs. Then you have carbs, you have cereal, and then like brunch items. I don't know, something like that.
Definitely some different routes you can go with that. I'm not
protein. Then you got your bacon, you got your ham, you got your sausage, you got your Canadian bacon.
So ham. So I think we have that. There's definitely an episode there. Maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe we'll have a debate. TBD though, as it stands right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so until next week then.
Until the same bad time, the same bad place.